Hey everyone, the doctor is in, and today we are going to talk with our friends at the American Cancer Society and Emory University about the Voices study. And it's a new study that's being launched by the American Cancer Society to basically, hopefully, improve the health of Black women. So I'm going to just kick it off. Dr. Mo's not going to join us today, but I have Haley and Uza, my cheerleaders here, our team, our touch team here to help us talk about this because I think this is such an important opportunity for all Black women to improve our health. But really, we focus so much on educating young women and engaging them in science. And, our mantra is to advance science for Black women and Black breast cancer and to advance science. And so to have these amazing women on and this amazing scientist, Dr. Lauren, who we work with on Soundbite, to be with us today. So you guys want to introduce yourselves and then we can talk about the study. Who wants to go first?
Lauren, I can go first. Hey, everyone, Lauren McCullough. I'm visiting scientific director at the American Cancer Society. And for the past 18 months, I've had the great privilege of working alongside my colleague, Dr. Al Patel, to build Voices of Black Women. So I am co-PI of this study.
And hi, everyone. I am the other part of what I think is a pretty dynamic duo with Lauren McCullough, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Population Science at the American Cancer Society and the other co-principal investigator of Voices of Black Women.
Can you explain for our audience what a co-investigator is? Like, we try to break down the big words for everybody. Like, what does that mean as a scientist? What does that mean?
Sure. So I think that, as we think about, there's an entire study team, there's about 55 of us here in our population science program that in some way, shape, or form contribute to how the studies are developed, the science behind them, how they're going to operate and run. But we have two people, myself and Lauren, who are the what we call principal investigators or the co-leaders of all of that. And so you can actually see behind Lauren, she has her chaos coordinator little placard up. And I think that defines pretty nicely sometimes what our jobs feel like. But really, we work together as partners to think about the science and the execution and all things about this study together.
Great. So let's talk about the study because, the first thing I said, oh my God, it's 30 years. Like, what does that really mean? And I think people don't really understand what it takes to do science, that you can't just like put it out there and do it overnight. So can you just give us the background on why we're doing this? And you kind of spoke that a little bit. Like, I think, we talk all the time about the disparities with Black women with breast cancer, but I mean, it's really across every disease. It's across everything, right? But so kind of what's the background? Why are we doing this? And what do you hope to, pretend it's 30 years from now? What are we trying to get to? Where are we going to be? Where's Oz?
You ask all the right questions, Ricky. So in terms of motivation, you hit the nail on the head, right? We know that there are these disparities that exist for Black women, both in terms of development of more aggressive disease, later stage disease, and then, of course, once diagnosed, Black women have the shortest survival of, their race and ethnic counterparts. And so really trying to dig into why this disparity exists and persists. You guys know very well for breast cancer, it began to emerge in the 1980s. And really for the past almost 4 decades, really has been sustained over time. Despite lots of efforts to try and narrow that gap. And so really digging into some of the things that we've not been able to adequately address from a scientific perspective is really the aim and the goal of this study. That way we can better inform women how to reduce their risk of breast cancer. And, if they are unfortunately diagnosed, that they can have, the most optimal chance to be able to live and survive. 30 years is a very long time. But one of the things that I think we all need to keep in perspective is the outcome of interest for the American Cancer Society is cancer. And one of the things that I think we've known from the most recent data is that Black women are being diagnosed at younger and younger ages. And so we want to make sure that we're capturing younger women so that we're not missing those individuals that are diagnosed in their late 20s and early 30s. But cancer is still a disease of aging women. And so most are going to be diagnosed at older years. And so that is the reason for the wide age span, but then also the reason that we're following up for so long, because we don't know when people will be diagnosed with cancer, but we want to ensure that we're capturing their experiences, their lived experiences, their behaviors, their lifestyles, so that we can inform those future interventions and really understand what's driving those disparities.
And
So
I'll
this
just
is
add
for
that-
healthy women, not
Healthy
women
women.
with cancer. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so
I'm
we start,
sorry.
I was just gonna say that we start with women who are between the ages of 25 and 55 and have never been diagnosed with cancer themselves. So that we can learn about those lived experiences before a cancer diagnosis, so that we can first start answering those questions about why that more aggressive disease, why the earlier age for many Black women of the onset of cancer and other health outcomes. But then with that longer term follow-up, we're able to then move on to addressing questions about how to maximize the likelihood that someone is going to survive that cancer diagnosis. So we can ask and answer so many different kinds of questions over the different years of follow-up. And that's the beauty of this. You know, these kinds of studies, we've been doing them. At ACS has actually had some of the world's largest population studies. We've engaged over 2.5 million people for decades of time since the 1950s in different studies. But this was the first study that we said, we're not going to go broad in terms of eligibility. We're not going to say come one, come all. We're going to be really intentional about focusing on Black women to understand what the unique drivers of cancer and other health outcomes are for Black women. Because if we don't have enough Black women in studies, we can't find answers that are going to be as relevant to the population.
Right, we
That's
won't know.
that's so refreshing.
Yeah, I know. Go
That's so
ahead.
refreshing because you always talk about the rainbow campaign like not working. And so like it's refreshing to have a moment where like this is solely focused on Black women in these ages we can actually see this work.
Yeah, so over the 30 years, we are going to be able to see some data, right? You're not going to wait till 30 years and like show a report.
Absolutely.
Okay, like, because I'll be dead by then. I hope.
Absolutely. And we probably won't be working by then.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Absolutely. You know, and the types of data that emerge from this study are going to vary over the 30-year period, you know, in addition to cancer, which is obviously our main focus. But I think very early on, we'll be able to speak to other, you know, disease outcomes that disproportionately affect Black women, like, you know, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, lupus, things like that. And we'll be able to speak to some of those things. And then we'll soon have some cancers, unfortunately, emerge, and we'll be able to speak to, you know, what Dr. Patel was saying about risk and aggressive tumors and late stage disease. And then, of course, as the study further matures, we'll be able to speak to some of those outcomes, recurrence, survival, et cetera. So yeah, we're not going to wait 30 years to have data. It's not going to come tomorrow, but there are certainly, you know, many different types of things that we're going to be able to speak to. And really, you know, I'm excited to just get a landscape of Black women's health. There aren't large studies that really have a nice representative cross-section of, you know, U.S. Black women. I think there are a lot of assumptions made about our health, like that we are not screened, which we know is not true. And I think this study can help sort of shed light on that.
Yeah, you know, we just don't have any data on Black women. It's so limited on our science, you know, so I love this because I think we're just going to learn so much about behavior and what makes us different. And clearly we have a different disease. And also we have so many even exclusions to clinical trials because of all these, you know, because of diabetes and high blood pressure and obesity and all these things that we have that are keeping us even out of the science that could advance cancer, when then this is our normal, right? Drugs should be made to accommodate the fact that we may have diabetes, right? And so we can't make those comorbidities kind of an exclusionary factor. And I think to understand this landscape better is going to be so much better, even just for all of research, right?
I think it's cool too that like, you know, a large part of what we do is educate Black women on their on knowing their risk, the existence of clinical trials, what they can do. And these are all things that we wish that people knew earlier, right? And so like this is an opportunity for Black women to be a part of science earlier than the time they need it, which is really, really cool and going to um just like doing these things makes me want to stay on top of my doctor's appointments, want to stay on top of my things in a better way, want to make sure I'm checking my girls, right? Like the activating anything, in this health space, whether it's research or just like going to the doctor, doing those screenings, it helps you do more of it. It's like when you work out, you actually want to eat healthier because you don't want to ruin your workout, it's the
Right.
same moment. And so I feel like it's really exciting to know that Black women can now have a space to be a part of the science in a way that feels meaningful, but not like intrusive either.
Well, I think that was Dr. McCullough and I have talked about and planned the study for the last several years. One of the things that we've said to each other, I can't even count how many times, is we don't want to do this for Black women. We want to do this with these 100,000 Black women. So we really want to build a relationship, a partnership, so that, there is this immense sense of collective pride in what we're finding together. Our work's not possible without the 100,000 voices that will be heard through this study. And so, there should be as much pride in what we learned from this study by every single one of our study participants as there is by every one of us that's doing the research in the study.
That's so great. And that's why you guys recruited Haley to be an ambassador, right? So can you talk about what the ambassador role is? And then Haley can talk about what she's sort of done in the last couple of days being an ambassador, right, Haley?
So ambassadors are individuals who are trusted voices and partners with us in reaching women for us to get to that 100,000 goal. And so we're just really excited. We have ambassadors that are parts of different companies that say, I'm part of my employee engagement group and I want to be able to take this to others in my place of work. And then there are folks that, are connected at their place of worship, or, through civic and other organizations, or organizations like Touch, of course. And what we really need is to stand with our ambassadors. We're not quiet in our group, but we're definitely not loud enough to reach the whole country. So it's really about coming together and giving some training and access to our marketing materials and resources so that you can then go on, Haley, as one example of an ambassador, can go out and talk about the study and feel confident in how she's talking about the study. So we're really excited to have Haley working with us in that capacity.
No, it's been well, it's just fun to be in this ecosystem, right? Because you get to meet amazing people and then find new opportunities through these people. So I actually met a woman from MedStar Baltimore at a Gilead event in DC, and then she found out about Voices and connected me with Susie Ford, and like that's how I initially found out about it. And so it's just like these connections are there, and I think that it's fun to see our entire ecosystem working to hear more Black voices, right? Because that's like all of the women in that moment I guess mentioned were white. And so like it was like, but they found me anyways, and they got to me. And so we can actually, it's everyone's priority right now. And I feel like it's really important that we continue to do this. And so I met with them last week, had a great conversation, learned about all about Voices, and I'm again excited to be a part of it. And I think for love of my girls, it's really important for us to make sure the campaign is built not just off of my opinions and thoughts and wants and things, but also that of young Black women in our age, in our demographic at various phases of that life, of those life stages. So we target the 18 to 35-year-old. And so, but what we know in that age range, you could be a mom at either end, a student at either end, right? And so we wanted our Young Women's Advisory Group to look like that. And so we have a board of women. We actually met last night, and Voice is going to be a part of my follow-up email to them today to say like, hey, sign up, be a part of this, tell your friends, tell your family, because I think that's, again, we're building more women who are wanting to do this work and wanting to be aware and wanting to turn their awareness into action. And this is a way to do that. And I think that's really, really powerful, because often we just like, especially me, because I just get lazy. And so I'm like, just tell me where it is, how to do it. And I'll be like, I'm happy to do it. And so like, this is something that's like, super easy, to like sign up and be a part of it. So like doesn't feel like I am taking too much time out of my day or my life or whatever, to contribute to science in a way that again feels meaningful, feels impactful. And like we mentioned before, like you mentioned before, Mom, like science takes a long time. In order to see these things happen, we have to engage now, and like I think about our When We Trial videos that mention like do it for your children, do it for your children's children, like that is why we do this work. And so it's exciting to see that somebody even that people understand, that longevity piece has to be there, right? We actually want that. It's going to create better research and knowledge for us all to study things over time. And yeah, it's like we can change the narrative right now about women engaging in science. And in our When We Trial campaign, you know, my mom, the exact number, I'm sure, of how many women we sign up in the clinical trial portals.
18,079.
I knew you would know the exact number. um, she remembers the number, even exchanges by one digit. She remembers it. Which is great. But I mean, I think that number, again, that's the number of women we sign up for clinical trial portals, which means that we've now, although we're now doing the research to figure out where they are in that clinical trial process. Did they get into one? If they didn't, what was that barrier, that impediment, so we can find it and solve for that. But the cool thing about that number is that it means that, sorry, there's a pup joining me here. But what it means about that number is that that means that we've changed that many minds around clinical trial research, right? That means that that many more women are willing to engage in knowing more, even if it's not yet a trial, I want to know more. I want to engage. And and we know that before that behavior change comes that mindset switch. And so we've now mastered the mindset switch and we can get to the behavior change, which is really, really cool. So I think, again, giving us more spaces to engage and earlier before we have to is so important and really, really cool.
Yeah, Haley, you hit on some really, I think important points. One is, I like to say we talk about all these gaps, right, in our communities. It's like, the generational gap, the financial gap, like all of these things. But the knowledge gap has been something I've been really focused on lately because there are so many women who I interact with who are just like, I didn't know. Right. And it's like, well, how would you, if people aren't out there advocating, sharing the data? And I think that's an important piece of this, is just helping women to understand we are fantastic. We are building in business and education and politics and all these things, but we still lag behind when it comes to health. And, the statistics are startling. And I think when women hear it and they see it in themselves and they see it in their families, they are motivated to take action, right? And I think that was one of the reasons that this group was selected, because it is a motivated group. And, I like how you put, your experience is that it was easy. That is 100% intentional. We have thought and had many conversations with our team on, we understand the many directions that Black women are pulled in. How do we make this as easy of a lift on them as possible? And so we've really tried to be very intentional in the way we've designed the study, having it online, making logins really easy, trying to keep it as short as possible, because we want women to want to do this and we don't want to overburden them. We can't ask them about their stress and then stress them out, right? So that's something we've really tried to be accountable for in really laying out the study design.
Okay, Uza just did it this morning, right? I called Uza and said, can you sign up for this and see what happens, so she can speak to that. So, and we're going to tell everybody to do that. We're telling you now, if you're watching, please go on the website, and we'll show you the website in a minute, but we'll put it in the comments. But Uza, what happened this morning?
I'm still working through it, but I was absolutely so excited to be a part of such a major change, right? Like Voices, I love that name as well, because with LMG, Love of My Girls, we are trying to empower women to speak up. And I think that they just are excited for the opportunity to have a seat at the table, and for their voices to be heard, for them to feel seen. We're teaching them to speak up, and they want to speak up, but to who? So, and what's going to happen after that? So I think it's just a wonderful opportunity, and Voices is the perfect name as well. I'm really
It's
excited.
also, just to add something to like, I just did the demographic survey, and I found it to also be very inclusive, and it's really hard to do demographic survey these days and be inclusive. It's like there are a lot of things that you want to make sure that you say correctly, um, and
Not offend anyone.
sometimes,
And
yeah,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just we live in a day and age where like you want to, those words mean a lot, right? When picking your word choice is everything. And so I think, well, the moment that I found really nice was, because I work with Love of My Girls, right? We talk about her story. So I ask people about your mom's side and your dad's side. And sometimes that feels like awful because I know that's not what all families look like today. And it feels like that's not really completely inclusive. So we're working on that. But I found it refreshing when you asked for, it said, do you know your parents' birth year?
Mhm.
And so it doesn't ask you what is your parents' birth year. So then you feel bad about whether or not you know or not, right? Whether you had a relationship with that parent or not, or you just don't remember, or you don't talk to them, so you don't feel like you can ask, all those things. I felt that moment to be really inclusive because then you don't even get the question, right?
Right.
Of do you know? Instead of or what is it versus the do you know? I found that because again, the word choice was paid attention to. It was
refreshing.
thought about, and I could see that even in the 5 minutes to do the demographic survey. You know what I mean? So I can only guess that there will continue to be that much forethought and thoughtfulness in the way things are worded here.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we have a patient we're talking to now. She's 24. She had triple negative, stage 3. She has the BRCA gene, but she's adopted. And she really doesn't know her family history. Her adopted family is very, very loving and close to her, and she's very, attached to them, but she can't really tell what her health history is. So I think a lot of this is going to help just in helping people think about it, think about the science, and think about health in general, which we are not doing. And you guys, Alpa, you brought up something earlier, Black women are shocked when they get diagnosed. Thanks. They are shocked. Like, had this happened to me, the first question you think about is like, well, what did I do wrong?
Mhm.
Did I cause this? Did I not eat the right thing? Did I eat too much? Did I not exercise? Like, what caused my cancer? And so they blame it on themselves initially, and they try to figure it out. So to be able to start thinking about health and what you can do to prevent stuff, so maybe you won't ever get sick. It's such a great thing. It's such a great thing. Like my other daughter, Haley's sister, she's 38. She just had a prophylactic mastectomy in February. We have 3 grandbabies. I have 3 grandbabies, and we don't know where my cancer came from. We have a family history. I don't have any genetic mutations. So it's like, I'm not dealing with this. Let's cut them off. But I mean, how many women can we now empower to be thinking about their health so they can take prophylactic action or change their behavior? So we're so grateful for this study just to be able to put that information into the world for Black women.
And I think it's also important, in what you said, to consider 2 things, in terms of knowing the history. One of the things that we are very cognizant of is that oftentimes in Black families and communities, issues with health often aren't shared. And so when you're asking about family history, it may not be that it's not there. It just may be that, grandma didn't tell you or auntie didn't tell you. We come across a lot of women who just don't know. And we do have to be sensitive to that and cognizant of it. And then also in terms of, same, Ricky, I've run across patients like, what did I do wrong? Did I eat the wrong thing? Let me change my diet. And, there are so many things that go into the development of cancer. And I think one of the important and unique things about this study is we are asking about behaviors and lifestyle, but we're also asking about these structural and system factors that have nothing to do with us. It has to do with policies. It has to do with how our people have historically been treated. What neighborhoods are we in? Where are those environmental toxic sites? Where are the Superfund sites? These things that we have no control over, and trying to understand how those things impact health to hopefully change minds and change policies and actions and helping to support minoritized groups and having better outcomes. So yes, the individual behaviors are important, but there are a lot of systems and structures that have also led to these disparities that we see disproportionately among Black individuals.
Even I kind of think the new screening guidelines, which totally suck for Black women, are an example of a structural determinant of health, right? You know, getting a your first mammogram at age 40 is just not good enough for us.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of what we're going to learn from your data is going to be how to change these policies. Like, who was really thinking about this? You know, frankly, on the U.S. Preventive Task Force, there's no oncologist. Why is that? How can you make a statement about cancer recommendations or screening recommendations if you're not an oncologist, right? So I think that you guys are going to basically enlighten us on so many things that could change systemically, politically, and then personally. So it's so awesome that you're
I
doing
mean,
this.
that's
One-
what's so
one-
exciting about the research that can come out of this is, as both you and Lauren have mentioned, just in terms of those systemic and structural changes, you know, I mean, think about the fact that, you know, yes, you can individually make the choice to ever pick up your first cigarette or not, but you can't blame someone who is addicted to smoking that they are addicted to cigarettes. So there is an individual behavioral component to quitting, but what's really changed tobacco control in this country has been policy change. It's been increasing tobacco taxes. It's been implementing and then enforcing smoke-free laws. And that has dramatically, caused this dramatic plummeting of smoking rates in the US. And we see those differences from one state to another, depending on how restrictive those laws are in one state versus another. So that's something that, benefits the population as a whole. But to Lauren's earlier point, what are those things about where the Black community largely lives and those, those specific racial and ethnic enclaves? Like, what do we have to learn there? I do a lot of exercise research, and, people are like, well, our message should be, throw a pair of sneakers on and go out for a walk. That's free and easy for anyone to do. And I said, not if you live somewhere that doesn't have sidewalks, that has high traffic and crime rates and so on. It's not the same structurally for everyone to be able to go out for a leisurely walk for exercise. So how do we actually use what we learn out of this study to, hopefully start really changing policies and start, at that local, and, all the way up to that national level.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see this research because I mean, like, it's going to, as I'm like reflecting on my life as I do these surveys randomly. So I'm like, what have I done with my the last 31 years? Um, but one of the questions asked me, it was an environmental question about like where I had worked over for longer than 2 to 3 years or 2 years. And it said, did you ever work with children? I was an elementary school educator for 8 years. And I was like, yes. And so I'm like, what is that one question going to mean for all of these things? You know what I mean? Like, what are the, because I was a teacher, what are all the things that are going to be a part of my life, right? Like, I took the COVID vaccine because I wanted to go back in person. Will that have long-term effect? Just like all these things that we don't know the long-term effects of, are going to be, we're going to be able to analyze them a little bit here. And so I'm excited to see, because I think that, again, one question is making me think so much. So like if you combine all the questions together,
we get that question a lot, like, so do you think this is related to cancer? And we're like, we're asking as broadly and as deeply as we can on so many different things so that we don't think 5 years or 10 years from now, I really wish I would have asked about this. So we've tried to really be thoughtful about casting as broad a net. And obviously with the 2 touch points a year for participants every year that the study goes on, we'll be able to not only update some of that stuff, but we'll actually be in a position to be able to introduce new things. So when we launched one of our last studies, cell phones weren't really used. They were just introduced into the world, and it was the kind that you actually had to like get fitted into your car. So it was an actual car phone, not a cell phone. And you think about dependence on that type of technology today, totally different. So, the other thing that we'll be able to do is introduce those kinds of newer things that are common in this population of Black women that we want to be able to tee up to answer new questions that we don't even know exist yet. So it really is, it was really fun to think about all the things that we wanted to pack into the first few surveys that will be going out.
And casting that wide net is going to allow you to see trends that you might not have thought about before being there, right? You
Absolutely.
might think it like, you know, exercise, things that we know about can be a thing, or but like this wide net may lead to some trends that you didn't even know
Yeah.
existed. And so I think that's a really, really obviously smart way to go about it. And I think that we're gonna see like it's so whenever there's someone's doing research, I'm like, what if there is just like one answer and we just like don't know it yet? You know, it's so cool to think like there could be like this one thing, this one impediment to this, and we can figure it out, you know?
When I thought about the 30-year thing too, Haley's 31, Amanda's 38, and I said, how was my life so different 30 years ago? And Haley actually recently found this picture of her first birthday party. She posted on Instagram for Mother's Day, but I thought about what was really different then. I didn't, I don't think I had a cell phone. I don't think I got a cell phone. I'm not sure when I got a cell phone, but I mean, if I did, it wasn't big part of my life, right? But I think about all the things that were different that have happened over the past 30 years, that have advanced science, that have changed our daily lives, that have made things so different for us. And I love that we're going to be able to see that purview. I'm totally addicted to Mad Men, because I was a marketing person. And so I look back, and that was like in the early 60s, right? And you look about just the role women had in the workplace. And then, just the technology that's changed from the typewriters they used in the office to what we have today. So I think it's going to be such a good spectrum of life to see what happens over 30 years, just in the world and how the world changes, and also how the role of a woman changes.
Yep, that was going to be exactly what I was going to say. Yes.
Yeah. Like, what do we do then? I was a mom. And you're a young mom, Lauren, even the way you mom and the way my daughter Amanda moms is different than how I mommed. Right?
Yeah. And we ask all of those questions, we really wanted to get into, you're exactly right. The roles of women have changed. I think as Black communities and Black families have changed, how women navigate in that space has changed. So we, ask all kinds of things around, caregiving and social support and feeling like you're a part of communities. And Haley, to your point, maybe it's a single answer, but it's probably more likely combinations of things, right? And so we can say, yes, exercise is good. There may be a and with that, right? Or, something else is bad and there's a but that comes along with that. And by having this wide net of, things that we're looking at will help us to sort of look at those intersections, because we say all the time, Black women are not a monolith, right? And we have to make sure that we consider all the nuances that go on in our lives and how that could, adversely impact someone in terms of health or be preventative or protective for them in terms of health.
Just so everyone can see what 30 years can do. This is us.
Oh, I love it.
Your mom looking fly as always.
I know, right? No, we're like, we all need this haircut.
I know. That's too funny, right? But yeah, what does change? What can change over the time, and what can make a difference in our lives and in our health, because I mean, I know that I probably did a lot of unhealthy things that we don't do now, right? That we talk about now as an issue, but it'll be really interesting to see that. I think also the different ages, you guys, you don't have any boomers in the study like me, right? But you've got all the other age groups covered, so.
And what knowledge will we have 30 years from now that we don't have today? So,
right.
I think back, I've been here at the American Cancer Study for over 25 years, working in population science. And when I first started, I do, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of exercise and cancer prevention research. And there was one sentence in the Surgeon General's report when I first started that being physically active on a regular basis may lower the risk of colon cancer. And that was it. That was the only mention of cancer in the Surgeon General's report about exercise and health. And that was in 1997. And fast forward today, we know that there are at least 7 kinds of cancers. And we've been able to look across all racial ethnic populations, 7 types of cancer that your risk is dramatically lower if you engage in 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity activity a week. So it's just been amazing to see, just even in my own career, you know,
Yeah, what's
our
happening?
knowledge base today versus what it was 25 years ago. And that's just one example. So, you know, to think about 10, 20 years from now, what we're going to know and how we're going to be able to intervene to change health for Black women in the future is just, it's just really exciting. It's just
Really exciting.
really
And
exciting.
And, you know, Lauren and I are working on this project, you know, with Morehouse Golden Nest with
Mhm.
Melissa Davis, and just that research alone over the next 5 years, you know, we're wondering what that's going to happen, what's going to change in
Sure.
5 years, right, Lauren? Like, how are we going to change the sort of how we think about cancer in the next 5 years? But to think 30 years, all the things that we could do. But I love being able to have like these intermittent episodes of like what's happening now, you know.
How can, you know, Uza and I and all of our peers help get more Black women involved? You know, how can we help this mission and support it so we can have the voices? I mean, obviously we're gonna go tell all of our friends. But like outside of that, you know, how can how can the young women get engaged in a way that they haven't before?
Yeah, so again, we've tried to make things really easy. You know, as you share in your social circles, friends, family, very easy. They can go online to voices.cancer.org. Everything you want to know about this study is there. We've listed lots of FAQs. We want to make sure that potential participants are very informed. And from there, you can also enroll in the study. And so we've tried to make it very simple. One, you'll check your eligibility. And if you're eligible, you'll read and sign the informed consent, which of course is required of all research of human participants. And then you'll register for the study. And so the registration is important because that's where we get, you know, your personal information, your name, your address, your email, so that we can keep up with you over the 30 years. And that process takes about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, you can do that first 1-hour survey where we capture all sorts of things. We talked about some of the demographic characteristics, your medical history, a little bit around your family history, your behaviors, experiences, and then we do capture quite a bit on mental health and social support, and importantly, racism and discrimination. And again, that takes about 60 to 90 minutes. And then you're a part of our Voices community. And we be following up with you over the 30 years, 2 touch points a year, which should be no more than 30 minutes. And so I try and remind people it is 30 years, but what we're asking for is just an hour, 1 hour per year. That's all we're asking for. And if we can get 100,000 women, we will be able to substantially, hopefully change, you know, the outcomes that we see in Black women. And 100,000 is a lot, but I'm an epidemiologist and I like numbers. So, you know, we've gotten about 1,000 women. And if those 1,000 women tell 10, we'll be at 10,000 women. And if those 10,000 tell 10, we'll be at 100,000 women, right?
I
Like,
love it. I love it. I know. And you just launched a week ago. So
I know, it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
exciting.
I just pulled up the website. It's so beautiful. You did such a great job, like putting it out there. But, you know, I know what's going to attract. We see ourselves here. I see myself here. I see Haley and Uzi here. I see our women here. So I think you presented in such a great way. We can see where we're enrolling the study. And so if you're in any of these states, you know, take note of this, but it's all on the website, voices.cancer.org. We'll put that in the comments, but, and then they can call you if you have a question, right?
Yeah. And they
I
have
also,
up at the top, you can or at the bottom right there, you can share the website to social media or in an email to others. So, you know, as Lauren just said, if the 1,000 people that we've already enrolled tell 10 people, and then those 10,000 tell 10, we'll get to that 100,000. So It's really about continuing to do, Haley, what you asked about is, what can you do is keep doing what you're doing and keep encouraging those that you're sharing with to share beyond themselves to their communities and their networks as well.
We need one of those like old school texts where it's like,
I
share
know.
you know.
Yes.
No, back to, well, one, I see myself more on the couch than on the run in these pictures. Side note. But I see myself, which is what's important, right? And then back to how easy it is. Oh wait, I lost my thought. But when I was signing up, oh, it'll come back to me.
That easy.
That
Oh, I remember. So as a teacher, I had to do these like long surveys at the end of the year, every year, probably twice a year we did it. And it was one of those things where like you didn't see the percentage really going up. You do like a page of the survey, and the percentage would go nowhere. You'd be like, how, when is this going to be done? Whereas like this survey is so easy because it's already outlined, and I love an outline. I'm like a huge outline nerd. So it's already outlined. So every time I finish a section, it's like, check, you did this piece. Check, you did this piece. And like for someone like me who like is a deadline junkie, it's like that's great, like I
Well,
love
and
like
the nice thing is you
organization of it is
can,
there.
and you can exit and come back to it. So
Yes.
if you
Yeah,
don't
can
have
stop and
that
start. Yeah,
hour,
yeah.
you don't have that hour at one time and you're like, I'm going to knock out another section, you can do that. So, and we will send you really nice, friendly reminders if you, until you complete the survey, but just to keep it front of mind, but you don't have to do it in one sitting, which is also really nice.
Yeah, that's so great. I'm so jealous I can't do it.
Me too.
I know. I know, but we'll put it out there and, hopefully you guys who are watching today will spread it around, send it to your friends, send this episode to your friends. We'll put up on YouTube for people without Facebook and make sure to get the word out and keep talking about it because we're so happy to have you here today just to talk about it and bring awareness of it because we need every Black woman that we know and
And back to the getting 10, it's like I can find 10 in my family. You know what I mean? Like just like Uz and I were at a conference and we heard the term in reach over outreach, right? Like
Yeah.
I can find 10 in my family. I can, like that's easy,
Yeah.
or like in terms of finding 10 other Black women, like got that, and then you can go to my friend group, which is like an easy another 20, like it's not that hard to find. Again, when you do the numbers like that, like, oh, I can find 10, not a problem,
Yeah.
We've
Because
seen
even we
that
have
effect.
15 in our advisory group, we'll get them to each get 10, right? So
Right.
we'll try to get you a few thousand. Okay, we'll work
We
on
love it.
Yes,
We'll commit.
absolutely.
Let's give them a number. Let's say we'll commit to 10,000 for you.
That would be amazing.
And we'll keep it
Yes.
going over, but we'll try to make 10,000 happen in like the next couple of weeks. Okay, we'll work on that.
We've seen it at events when we are handing out our bags or materials, and women are, once they have that knowledge that Dr. McCullough was speaking about, they're so excited to go home and share that with their families. So adding this piece on, and it's an action step where they're actually seeing, oh, I'm going to be a part of research over the next 30 years and how their lives change. And we always are telling people about how important it is to capture Haley and I's age group because we are the present and we are the future. So just being able to spread that is wealth. Really, really excited.
Yeah, no, I think on that note, if you have any written materials that you want to put in our bags, like things like that, I think are
we give
great.
out bags. We give out
would
so
be-
many bags every week at events. So send us some materials and we'll
We can definitely
make sure
do
we-
that.
we'll
And
make sure
encourage and anyone here listening who's also a part of advocacy in any regard or has a space where young Black women frequent or Black women frequent in general, like go ahead and hit up Dr. Alpa, hit up Dr. McCullough, like let's get like so we can get this information in these spaces, right? Because a part of our strategy at Touch is going where Black women live, work, play, pray, and slay. And so like we bring that programming to the communities. And so like if you are somebody that operates in this community, like figure out your way that you can promote this in your community, in your house, in your church, all those spaces. Could think that would help so much, and it'd be so easy to like hand out the flyers at church, like why not?
Well, I'll definitely be talking about it at church this Sunday. And you know, we're doing events. We're gonna do two big ones I think we're gonna do this summer, and we'll include you guys in all of this is we're gonna go to do the Urban League Community Day.
Mm.
And I think they normally get about 100,000 people at
Mhm.
that event. And we do, scanning there and talking there. So that's a good one. And then we're also going to do an event at Martha's Vineyard. When all the bougie black people are there that third week, right? And but we're going to do an event called Sisters on the Vineyard on the Tuesday, the 13th of August. And maybe you guys would love to come and speak with us, come and speak. We have Sunny Hostin's going to be our keynote speaker that day, but we're going to be doing scanning in our house that we're renting for that whole week.
That's
So we
amazing.
can definitely
Wow, that's
get
amazing.
people, we'll put up a computer while people are waiting for their scan, they can sign in to Voices. So we'll try to include you. We usually bring an iPad to our events anyway, so we'll just put up a screen that people can sign up and
Yeah.
get involved, because
All you need is our QR code. They
Yes.
can on their tablets and
Great, then they can
phones
just,
and-
great, give us,
Yes.
we'll
Yes.
put on a banner, put on our tables and get people signed up, because what's your goal is to get how many of the 100 do you want signed up this year? Like, do you have like numerical goals? Or you want everybody?
So we
I think
we
we've
don't
been
have,
saying-
yeah, we've said within 3 years, we'd like to get to the 100,000.
Oh, that's
I'm now saying this on in public. So Lauren might be in my office after we finish to strangle me. I'd love to see a year from now us being at that 100,000.
Yeah.
Because that means
don't
we
think
start
that-
getting to do the research
Agreed.
that much sooner. So
We got
think
you.
we
I
are
think that's a great goal.
And
I
it's
think that-
doable. It's
it's
doable.
doable.
It's
No.
doable. It is.
It just
really
it just
doable.
takes action, of this community, and the community is mobilized, right? It's just getting the information in their hands, and
Yeah,
that's what we'll depend on y'all for, just
we got you. We'll do
to
our
help get the
part.
word out.
We'll do our
Well, and I
part.
love
and
the
get-
way Haley said in reach versus outreach, because that's really what it's about.
Mhm.
It's about hearing about this and doing this, as a community, like with your friends. And we've seen that, in other movements where, that's when you do this in solidarity with one another, we're building that community of these 100,000 women, which is just so exciting.
I love it. And 100,000 women who don't have disease, who can really
Mm-hmm.
help us figure out how to deal with these women with disease. That's such a great thing. If you can do something in your life that could help your children or your mama or your sister,
Yes.
how could you not do this, right? And be a
Yeah.
part of this conversation. So
Yeah.
it's so exciting.
I like to remind women that 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer. So when you sign up for this study, you're signing up for a friend or a family member, because I'm sure we all know more than 8 Black women, right?
Right.
And so as you're committing your time and your energy and your effort, just think about the women that are in your circle and knowing that this research will hopefully help them down the road.
Not get
And
breast
an hour is not a long time. The hours I've wasted on other things, we can make a list, it's like not a long time at all. And so it's like, again, in the course of matters of years, we're talking as well. Like, we're not talking about taking up too much of anyone's time. And the outcome of an hour, to a couple more hours given other surveys of time, though, will be worth years and weeks and so much more than those hours we spent, you know what I mean? And so it's like a really, really cool concept to think that I could give this amount of time and make this much impact.
Yeah, if
Absolutely.
you think about an hour a year over 30 years, that's just over one day in
One
the
day.
next 30 years of time.
right of your time.
And, and what it can lead to, the impact it'll have on countless Black women that, go beyond even who you know. It's going to impact who you know, but just the impact it's going to have across the whole country.
Yeah.
And what it's going to mean for our understanding of how to improve health for Black women is just really transformational.
Right.
And I
we
think
can
too,
start to-
breast cancer is really great because it's a women-led space.
Mhm.
And so I rarely don't see men outside of my partner and my day to day. But But to start to see that the movement that we see in breast cancer, because again, women led, it's moving. We got advocacy, we got all these things. But being able to see some of these trends or see things across other cancer types is going to be
Yeah.
so important, because my family also has colon cancer history. And so it's like, do I know that much about that? No, I do not. I do not know that much about what I should be doing to, you know, lower my risk for that, And so again, being able to inform me
Mhm.
on just those trends across different kinds of cancer is going to be really beneficial, because I've now, I've dived into, I'm like really a part of breast cancer. I'm more knowledgeable about that cancer type, but not about anything else. And so it'd be so excited to know. I'm like nerding out now because I like am really excited to hear this.
No, it's going to be such a great thing for our community. So we're so grateful that you're doing this. And, I actually, I'm on, the ACS, American Cancer Society Breast Cancer Roundtable Steering
Yes.
Committee, and we're meeting the other day. And I feel like sometimes we're like sitting in this little box, in this little ivory tower saying, oh, what can we do? There's so many things we could do. And I basically, was a pain in the ass the other day and said, everybody needs to be signing up people for voices. I don't care what you're doing. That should be a job of our steering committee. How hard is it? We now have 100 wonderful organizations, of which I've brought in a lot of Black people and Black women. You know what I do. And I'm going to implore all of them. They need to all be activating about this study. And so you guys, that's going to get us should get us at least 10,000. So I put them to work the other day, and I will continue to be on their butts to make that happen. So
We
If
appreciate
anybody will do it,
you.
it's you, Ricky.
We appreciate you.
but every audience we can get to do this work, we're going to make happen to help you do this, because we're all going to benefit, and my grandkids are going to benefit. I always say every day, Bella Ann Hart and Haley and Amanda, they're my purpose. This is why I do this work. And so I don't want to speak these words by the time they get boobs.
Mhm.
And we got a lot of work to do
Yeah.
to get them. And I start thinking about their kids, and are they going to have to get a double mastectomy prophylactic like their mother did? Like all those things make you think about what's going to be their future. And the more information we have to inform decisions and inform science and inform actions and inform lifestyles, the better.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm-hmm. So any closing thoughts, guys? We have a few more minutes, and tell people how to reach you. We'll put everything in the comments, but
I will just say thank you for inviting us to be part of this conversation, and for everything you have done and continue to do to champion this work. And for those listening, go to voices.cancer.org, and I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Yeah, same. Join us. We can't do it without you. I'll say I am a Voices participant, and I've never taken a survey that I felt was so relevant to me and feeling very seen as a Black woman and the barriers we face day to day. And I hope that that is your experience, that you feel seen, you feel heard, and that you encourage others in your circle to participate.
Right. Susan, Haley, any final thoughts? You go first, Susan.
I was waiting for Haley to jump in, but once again, just really excited about having a space, as Dr. McCullough said, where I feel seen and heard and represented as a Black woman, and just excited to be a part of change.
Uza and I go to so many events, so we have this this little shared note on our phones. We write down words that people say, like things that like this struck a nerve, or they we're excited to share this thing. And the same guy that said Enrich over outreach also said that we are the amen to the prayers before us, like all of our ancestors' prayers before us. And I feel like this survey is an amen to like a lot of researchers' thoughts that
Yeah.
have wanted to do things like this and wanted to create a study like this, So I feel like this is going to be the amen to a lot of people's strife, tribulations, disease states. And so I feel like that's what this is going to be. And it's really, really cool to be a part of something that is this big and is this universal for Black women.
I love that.
Great. Anything else, you guys? So I'll say Mo's line. If Mo were here, she would say, we hope that we were relatable, reliable, and real. We try to do this every week. We thank Black Doctor for this platform. We thank our partners and sponsors for letting us have this platform. And we thank you so much for being here today, and come back anytime. You know, we can't wait for you to do your first progress report. Please come back and help us.
We
When we
definitely
hit our
will.
10,000 number, we'll do a shout out, and you guys have to come back and help us, know that we did that. And, let's do what we always say. We have 2 hashtags that we live by, you guys. Where are they on my wall? GSD, get shit done, and DIS, do iconic shit. Let's make it happen. So
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Well, let's make it
Thank
happen.
you, guys.
So see you guys next week, and thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.